I'm David Kaplan, and this is Real Live. I'm here with Mike Muse and our very special guest this week, ABC News reporter Kelly McCarthy. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, David. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you, guys.
So, all right, we have a very exciting show today. All right, first up, let's talk what everyone's talking about. So this is very interesting. NFL, we know President Trump last week, he said at a rally in Alabama, NFL players who kneel during the national anthem are, quote, SOBs. So let's open this up. Do you think that sports and politics should be separated? What do you think, Kelly?
Well, I think first of all, you need to look back, right? And look back to how this all first began with Colin Kaepernick last August when he was still with the San Francisco 49ers. He initially was sitting. And he actually spoke with a Navy SEAL who told him it would be more respectful if he took a knee, and at which time he did. And then obviously since then we've seen a lot of changes, and we've seen a lot of other athletes, even in other sports, participating in that. But, not one player has openly said that this is open against the military or some kind of protest against America or the national anthem. They were really just using the national anthem as a vehicle to start a discussion about something that really mattered to Colin Kaepernick, which was racial injustice and police brutality. And I think that a lot of that kind of talk has gotten lost in the shuffle of how big this has become with buzzwords like unity and equality. And I think that a lot of other things have kind of muffled the conversation and paved way for, kind of more backlash than what people initially saw.
So, Mike, what do you think fast forward a year? Because the Colin Kaepernick, we know, like last year, huge thing. Why do you think President Trump, has erupted this again? Because it was pretty quiet on that front. I mean, or is this par for the course with President Trump? I mean, you're smirking, so I know you have a lot to say about this.
Well, I don't know if I have a lot to say about it, but just in terms of President Trump, in terms of him inserting himself, I'm just not sure why he inserted himself. President Trump has had this tendency to create distractions when policy really isn't going his way. And at that time, it was being announced that the Affordable Health Care Act wasn't going to be replaced and repealed. And so then he threw this red fodder and this red meat in regarding calling the NFL players SOBs. The way that he has now politicized this issue was not necessary. He could have allowed the conversation and the debate to go just without him inserting himself. Now, as a result of inserting himself, we've actually elevated the conversation in ways where it wasn't even happening pre his Alabama speech. But what I find most fascinating about this is, Kelly, you set it up so perfectly, this was never about the American flag. This was never about the military. So how these two issues have become conflated, it's become really confusing. But David, the issue I have with it is I want to talk to the flag purists, if you will, right? Those who are so offended by it. If you look at the U.S. flag code, you're not supposed to wear the flag as wardrobe. Right. We see it on outfits and T-shirts all the time. The NFL, they're not supposed to wear the flag for athletic uniforms as the U.S. flag code. For the flag, how the NFL brings it out in a horizontal for the presentation, it's not supposed to be horizontal. So I'm curious, where is this selective outrage when it comes to the flag?
Let me ask you, so you said, he was politicizing this issue, but isn't this, so if it's not a political issue, then what is it? I mean, these players, they're protesting something. They're trying, there's an issue here. So if it's not political, then what is it really?
Well, I think, if I may, to that point, I mean, it did start with Colin Kaepernick, right, with the racial injustice and police brutality. And since then, I think that the rhetoric has changed a lot because other players first were, doing it in solidarity, and then you saw just shows of people doing it in solidarity, not always necessarily supporting the same call to action or the same thing, but they were still using that space as a vehicle to get their message across about, some kind of message. And I think that, whether it's political or not, and in this case, it has become sort of political with Trump weighing in and other things, but I think it's important to see that athletes are taking a message that matters to them and they're giving it a stage. So whether you support them or not personally, that's up to you, but you also have to say that it's up to them if they want to speak about it or believe what they believe.
So let me ask, so now you were saying, obviously an issue here with a lot of players is, you're right, they were talking about racial inequality in this country, police brutality in this country. Now, President Trump has said, and a lot of critics of the players who are protesting, they're saying, wait a second. You see this particularly a lot of pundits on cable news are saying, wait a second, these are players who are making millions and millions of dollars. No, they should not be protesting. What are they talking about? They have nothing to complain about, right? So a question here to throw out here is, does money negate the experience of oppression?
Yeah, you can still be rich and still experience any type of ism. You can still experience xenophobia.
And just I want you to interrupt up here, and I want you to address this notion also of that we've seen obviously players of color, they still are called the N-word. They still have this. I just want you to carry on with that when you're addressing this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can still have $1 million. You can still be $1 billion, but you can still experience racism. Money does not all of a sudden exclude you from having races or having discrimination towards you. Money doesn't exclude you for having people taunt you and ridicule you and try and keep you marginalized. Money actually only makes more people say that you should not speak up, right? Which is really what Kelly and what you're alluding to. This whole conversation is about social injustice, police brutality. And individuals have a right to discuss it in the ways that they choose to feel free to do it because the First Amendment allows that. So for those individuals who are crying foul because of patriotism and showing disrespect for military vets, the military vets actually allow for them to take a knee. That is part of the First Amendment. What I find interesting is how we become selective on who gets to use the First Amendment and who doesn't get to use the First Amendment. And what we haven't talked about yet, I'm sure we will get to, is a whole paid patriotism. The U.S. Department of Defense had paid the NFL in order to have these military experiences in the beginning of the field. This never happened pre-2009. Before 2009, David, the players actually were in the locker room. They didn't come out until they started getting paid to come out.
And I will say, just off of that really quickly, I mean, there has been, you can check back in the sound bites and everything, there has not been one player that has outwardly said, you know, this is about the American flag or this is about us protesting the military. Not one player or teammate or anyone has said that.
I mean, I think also, another argument, some people are saying is like, listen, I just want to, on a Sunday afternoon, watch the game. I don't want politics in my football. Sure. I just want to go to the stadium, have a beer, popcorn, whatever. But again, I want to go back to this point. I mean, should sports and politics really be separated? I mean, should these two worlds be completely separate? If you want to go deal with politics, fine, go online, read a political blog, go to a political rally, do something like that. So again, should the worlds of politics and sports be completely separated?
Sports and politics have necessarily have a direct correlation, the intersection you're referring to. Yeah. Sports and activism has always had this intersection.
So, but what about sports and
politics? No, but sports and activism is at the root. Those are all the players.
Baseball. And
exactly.
Jack Robinson. I mean, it's
tennis,
been around. You've seen it.
It's all activism. President Trump has made about politics. I've never seen a president attack a sport and then attack a player the way that he has. By he inserting himself, it has now become polarized. What's interesting, guys, is that it's amazing how those individuals feel the need to say how one should protest, right?
So do you feel he's politicized it? So you feel he has politicized the sport?
He has politicized it.
And do you think that's correct or not? So, do you feel like sports shouldn't be politicized like this then?
Sports has never been political. What I'm trying to say is that sports and activism has always had this intersection since the beginning of time, right?
Not necessarily politics.
Not politics. Now this is all about partisanship. This is now about patriotism. This is all about now a sitting president of the United States going on Twitter and condemning players. He is calling players out, such as Steph Curry, calling them out. He has now politicized it. When a president sits in the Oval Office and sends tweets to marginalize a player, that has become politics. It wasn't politics.
So that we know. So is that? So I just want to know, yes or no. So is that incorrect? Should that politics be staying out of the sports?
I keep saying yes. It's activism, but everybody has a right to express their activism however they should, whether it's through music, whether it's through film, whether it's through fashion. People do communicate messages in terms of how they feel.
I will say one thing that's interesting is that you kind of brought up that people look at sports as like a distraction, right? Over time people have always taken sports and taken in sports as a way to kind of escape, what's going on in the world. And I think what's maybe a little difficult here in this situation is that now the athletes are taking this action into their own hands and they're saying, hey, here's this issue. And while it may be a silent protest, even if you know what's going on underneath and it has become a little bit politicized, there's kind of no hiding from the conversation, right? Because if you're sitting down and watching the NFL on Sunday, you're more interested then is my team going to come out of the locker room? Yeah. Are they going to be standing for the national anthem? And you're not paying attention to necessarily the sport itself and the distraction from those things, because now those things are in the forefront even when you're watching sport.
Kelly, you raised something really interesting because we noticed a trend. This many players weren't taking a knee. Prior to President Trump making the statement that he made in Alabama, there were no teams sitting in the locker room.
It was more of a response. The teams going to the locker room, the Steelers, the Titans, that was out of an acknowledgement of Trump's statements. They were staying out of the locker room so that the players on the team could respond to the national anthem how they wanted to without worrying about people saying, oh, this person sat, this person stood.
Mm-hmm. But now with the whole conversation, I'm actually happy that he has elevated the way that he has, because now more players feel more comfortable in taking a knee. Now they have more cover, right? A lot of times individuals are afraid to lose endorsement deals. A lot of individuals were afraid that the fans would go away. But there's no way you can penalize half the team, right? There's no way brands can now start taking away endorsements, because then that would trigger other aspects. In an interesting way, President Trump has elevated this conversation, some would say in a positive way now, because now we get a chance to push through. It's going to be more difficult now to push through the racial injustice and the police injustice that goes against black and brown individuals on a daily basis. Awareness. But now we have to counter patriotism, right, and American flag and military. So now we kind of have to get that out of the conversation so we can get back to what the root of what Colin Kaepernick was doing. Right. But it allows us to have shows like this where we can talk about this type of banter.
All right, we'll see what happens this Sunday. I think it's going to be interesting to see what manifests itself. All right, let's move on to something a little bit lighter and a little bit more fun. Leonardo DiCaprio. So, still talking about the president, but a different president. Leonardo DiCaprio has been tapped to play Teddy Roosevelt in a movie by Martin Scorsese. Very exciting.
Dynamic duo. They're back at it.
Now, before we deconstruct all things Leonardo DiCaprio, we have a very special guest. Of course, we've had him here before. Entertainment reporter Michael Rothman. He's going to join us and break down the top 5 Leonardo DiCaprio films with us.
Yes.
And then we're going to break down all things Leo. Hey, Mike.
Rothman.
Here he is.
Oh, there you go.
Guys,
I see you, Rothman.
You guys.
We've beamed him in via our intergalactic special TV here. How are you?
You guys feel so far away.
We're very close to
Muse,
you.
Kelly Mack, and David Kaplan.
So break it down for us, Mike. What are the top 5? Are you a big Leo fan?
Who's not a big Leo fan?
Exactly. All right, we'll talk about all that after. Okay, take it away. Top 5 films. Go.
Oh, I wish I had a list somewhere. Hold on. I wish I just had a list to look through.
You just happen to have it in your back
Look at that.
pocket because we all walk around with a list like that.
All right, can I do like a Letterman style countdown? Is that cool?
That is exactly what you should do.
All right, number 5. I'm going to go Blood Diamond, nominated for an Oscar.
Good
he
choice.
changed his accent. Can't go wrong there. Number 4, personal favorite, Gangs of New York.
Cool.
I think the only thing knocking him down on this one was Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis. It's hard to act opposite to him. So 3, I'm going to go a classic, one of his first movies, What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Good one.
It was a very bold and amazing acting job there. Number 2, throw you a little surprise, this one, The Revenant. I know he won the Oscar, but I like number 1 better. I'm going to go Wolf of Wall Street. Chant Wolfie.
Good choice. All right. Did you struggle over that list, or was it pretty easy for you?
It was like hours. I worked overnight on it. I had Titanic in there, and I pulled Titanic out. I put Romeo and Juliet in there, and then I was like, "What are you thinking? This is crazy." It was tough.
Rothman, I have to ask you, what about Shutter Island? I mean, I know everyone loves that movie who I talk to. Honorable mention? Nothing?
I feel like, Kelly McCarthy this morning when I was talking to her, she was like, Shutter Island needs to be in there. I'm going to say, can I go number 6? Is that cool? Can I get an extra one?
I'll let David judge on that one.
Yeah, we'll extend the list for you. Take it away. Go do number 6.
You guys be nice to Kelly McCarthy.
We are. Kelly's our special guest. We're not mean. There's no hazing here, Rothman.
You guys
All right,
me,
so let's
that's
talk
a
about some of the
lot.
questions. Okay, the big question here. Is Leonardo DiCaprio like the actor of our generation? What do you guys think?
I think that's a tough question. I don't know if he's won enough Oscars for that to be a
I mean, he finally did win an Oscar, right? So, I mean, what do you think, Mike? Let's do the non-entertainment reporter guys here. Then we'll bring it to you, Mike. I mean, what do you think?
I think that he is. I don't know if a statue has to qualify you as being the actor of our generation. I think that he's proved that he is with the diversity of his roles. Rothman laid it out perfectly in his top 5 selection. I can't believe he didn't put Titanic in there, but Rothman and I share 1 and 2 together in terms of my thoughts with Leonardo DiCaprio. But I think this body of work
Mike,
is that
you and me are like Rose. We're like Rose and Jack.
no,
I
literally.
will never let go, man.
But
never let
Rothman,
go.
even the ones that you showcased and you highlighted, it shows such range of characters actors that Leonardo DiCaprio has done. Even look at The Revenant. He was able to keep our attention for almost like 3 hours of a film almost.
Well, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite Leo movie?
It would literally be literally 1 and 2. The way that Rothman had it. Wolf of Wall Street and then Revenant.
Wolf of Wall Street is the best. I think if you live in New York, you kind of like that movie because it's such a New York movie.
It's very New York, yeah.
And it's just, it has all the debauchery that you love about New York. Do you know what I mean? Like everything you can't really air on ABC is in that movie, so I think that's why it's great.
He also had to act.
I don't want to hate on the love fest of Leo.
But,
Go ahead.
If you count someone I mentioned earlier, Daniel Day-Lewis, in the same generation, it's tough to put someone who basically becomes the character in every movie he plays, whether you think that's insane or not, above him. So it's tough, but yeah, he's definitely top 5. Definitely top
Daniel Day is definitely a
overrated.
character actor. Daniel Day-Lewis is a fantastic character actor. He's one of the
Kelly,
best character actors of our time.
What do you think about Leo?
Well, okay, so here's the thing with Leo, right? He always plays these very intense roles, and I think Wolf of Wall Street was very well done, and I think he had to, play a range of emotions in one movie that not a lot of other actors can handle, right? That range is very complex and very hard, and he does it well. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. Do I think he's the greatest actor of our generation? I don't know. Probably not. I think there are more compelling actors in my book.
Oh wait, was that an absolute, like the greatest, or one of the greatest?
I think it
we're
was
like
the.
all absolute here, Mike. It's like the greatest.
I'm sorry.
Book is shut. Done.
No, I
See you
can't
later.
shut the book on that one.
No, I would
think
do
you have to put
one
some other
of the
people in
greatest.
that
I thought it was,
conversation.
is he one of the greatest actors of our generation?
We're all at absolutes here, right?
Yeah. No. From an absolute standpoint of view, I don't think that he is, but I think that he'll be
Changing his
definitely in the top 5. Absolutely. I thought we were saying one.
I always thought, honestly, he was like a bit overrated. Earlier on in his career, honestly, I was like, what's the big deal about him? Like, I really did think that. Seriously. I was like, why is this kid, like, what was he, in a Cheerios commercial or something? I just, like,
that part I
didn't
remember.
really get why he was. Gilbert Grape, all right. There's a certain producer in my ear, I think her name is Kat, who's like, thinks Gilbert Grape was like the end-all be-all of every movie. But I always thought he was a little bit overrated. But I do think, Wolf of Wall Street, I have to admit, I loved. I loved
he was
the
so
craziness
impressive.
of it, though. And I just think, I think I do think he's amazing, and I think it'll be interesting to see. I mean, he's very versatile. I think he does well with intense, hardcore character actors. I think it'll be interesting to see him as Teddy Roosevelt, because obviously that makeup artist is going to have a field day with that, and the costume person.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be really interesting. I think he does well with accents. I think that's where we see his talent. I think that's where it is. I mean, what do you think, Rothman? Like, that is where, I think that's when you see it, and I think maybe that's where you see a really great actor, when they can do that sort of stuff, when it's the accents, and they can sort of, go into different time periods and that sort of stuff.
I love the accents. I loved him in Gangs of New York. I think he played an Irish immigrant, which was great. But something you mentioned before that I actually makes me a little hesitant with the Teddy Roosevelt thing. I remember was it what they call it? J. Edgar Hoover. J.
Yes.
Edgar was the name of the movie. I was not a huge fan of that. It felt, to what you mentioned earlier, he felt like a kid dressed up in an old man's body. He's aged, I think, about 10 years since then, so I hope it's more of a natural fit. I mean,
Robin,
if you contrast someone like Day Lewis,
for the first time, buddy. I mean, I think the J. Edgar movie was so great. I'm a big fan of your hair, but
we can watch it. We'll watch it together, or watch it again together, and maybe I'll be different.
J. Edgar was actually really good. But I'm curious, though, Rothman and the rest of you guys, to see how he's going to connect with Roosevelt, because we all know Leonardo DiCaprio does a really great job with climate change, just in his own personal life. And President Roosevelt was known as like our first environmentalist president who really took a neat area of conservation. I don't know where Scorsese is going to time and kind of frame the movie.
The directors and producers, and the framework of it.
But I don't know what the point of the framework it is.
Do you think
But if
that
he
works
does
well for
include
casting?
that, I
Maybe
think
that
it's gonna
people are
be
just conscious
interesting.
of that. I mean, that you think maybe that like when you know the actor, there's actually some connection between the real life character and the actor playing them. You're like, oh, you're more. It's like a good casting choice, maybe, or something.
I think it is, because especially if you go, he's such a great method actor and really gets into characters. So if you're a director and that's what you want, for someone to embody the character of it, I think it's fantastic. I learned something really interesting from the individual who's going to play Thurgood Marshall coming in the Marshall movie. And what he said was, Chad Boseman, thank you. He doesn't. He doesn't look like Thurgood Marshall at all, but he said, I did a lot of research and I wanted to capture the essence of Thurgood Marshall. And I think, and and he's another great character actor. And so I think if the actor has the chops, they don't have to embody the individual, but the essence of it. And I think Leonardo DiCaprio can do a fantastic job with embodying the
He's
essence
an
of
essence
it.
actor, not
All
a
right,
method
we got all.
actor.
All right, we're very excited. All right, so Leo,
Mike
Essence
we're
is
done.
actually
Muse.
key, though, because
I
that
could not
actually
agree with you
captures the spirit
more.
of it. Say it again, Rothman.
I was going to say, hey, we're back on track, Mike. I could not agree with you more on Chadwick. And also, first, if you want to talk about someone who does great with accents and being a chameleon, is Chadwick Boseman. I mean, from Captain America Civil War to the James Brown movie.
Jackie
he's
Robinson.
fantastic,
Jackie
and I couldn't think of
Robinson.
anybody. Yeah, Jackie
Love it
Robinson,
too.
too. He's
Now a comic
phenomenal.
book superhero right up your alley, Rothman.
All right, Rothman, thank you so much for all your input here. Again, thank you for beaming into us. We will call on your expertise again very soon. Thanks a lot. See you later. All right, guys.
Bye, Rothman.
Bye.
This was fun, right? Our little film chat. All right, now it's time for one of my favorite parts of the show we always do. This isn't new to you, Kelly. Real.
But I came prepared.
Right, yeah, I hope you did, right? We're going to do real talk. Mike, take it away.
Yo, so I'm so excited about the discussion that happened this week regarding my boy King James. And for those who don't know, who've been paying attention to me all this time, you guys all know by now I am a huge fan of LeBron James, affectionately known as King James. He has his sidekick back. So Dwayne Wade has left the Chicago Bulls and is now going to join the Cleveland Cavaliers for just 1 year. But David, the reason why I'm so interested in this is because I'm wondering, is this a sign? Is this a sign that after this year is done, LeBron won't sign again to the Cleveland Cavaliers and he'll make his way out to Los Angeles Lakers? And let me tell you, I've never rooted for the Lakers a day in my life, but when he does sign with them, I'm going to be the biggest Laker fan.
You may be
out
a
there.
changed man.
Interesting conspiracy.
Yeah.
All right.
We
that
shall
sounds
see.
all right, we
Totally
shall
obsessed
see.
with it.
All right, Kelly, take it away with your inaugural Real Talk.
So my real talk today is Beyonce surprising everyone, dropping a snippet of her track on Mi Gente. We actually have a little taste for you if we can play that clip. And she is going to be donating all of the proceeds from this collaboration to the Hurricane Relief Funds and the Mexico Earthquake Relief Funds. So really special thing that she's doing there. Not surprising Queen Bey, but, you know, exciting stuff nonetheless. And pretty fire track if you don't.
Good singer, good person, right?
Yeah.
Very warm and fuzzy. All right,
I know
my
you're a
Real
fan.
Talk.
Huge.
Taking a cue from you, just got to say, Puerto Rico also going through, has had incredible, awful devastation from the hurricane there as well. My local firehouse as well, walked by. They have donation boxes across New York City, and I'm sure elsewhere across the country. Bins, here's a photo I took actually, donating lots of products. They need diapers, they need so many products. So I just want to say, go to your local firehouse, go wherever you can. It's really important to do that, and I think it's amazing. Do what the government is not doing, that we should really be doing it. So I think
There's
that's
a lot
really
of ways to
incredible.
help.
That's great,
So
David.
That's great.
thank you guys. This has been great. Thank you everyone for watching us this week. We are going to see you again real soon, and we will see you again on Real Life. Have a great weekend, everyone.